Welcome to the Last Economy podcast, a guide to the age of intelligent economics. So here we are. We've spent, wow, months together really digging into the nuts and bolts of this intelligence inversion. We've laid out how the old economic rules,
Yeah.
the ones built on scarcity, resource limits, human labor being the key input, how they're just fundamentally breaking down.
Yeah, they really are.
But that brings us to, well, the biggest question, maybe the most unsettling one. If that whole economic system we built, the one that's defined modern life, if it becomes obsolete, what's left for us, for humanity? If machines can make everything we need to survive, what's our actual purpose?
That's the core of it, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And that's why today we're doing a deep dive into chapter 21 of the book. It's the philosophical heart, really, the personal peak of the whole argument, and it's titled simply After Economics.
This chapter is, you could say, the real pivot.
Yeah.
Everything before it was about dismantling the old ways, showing why the old paradigm, scarcity, GDP focus, the corporate structure, just doesn't hold up anymore.
Right.
Now, this chapter asks us to look at that cleared ground and think, okay, what do we consciously choose to build here? That economic necessity, the thing that's driven human life for, well, forever. The need to farm, to work, just to stay alive.
Yeah, the daily grind.
Exactly. That necessity is basically dissolving under the weight of this near-infinite computation power we're unleashing.
It's a massive shift in perspective.
It is. And the book frames it, I think, quite powerfully. The goal shifts, right?
Yeah.
It's no longer about survival through production. It becomes about the discovery of genuine human purpose, a purpose that's completely free from that pressure to earn a living like we always have.
So it's like a promotion.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
The highest possible promotion, you could argue. But it definitely comes with this feeling of vertigo. It's potentially terrifying.
Okay, let's get into how that actually hits us, the individuals, because the book argues the immediate impact is the destruction of the job.
That's the mechanism.
For centuries, a job wasn't just about getting paid, was it? It was like this all-in-one package deal. It did way more than just provide a paycheck. And the book identifies, 5 crucial functions, all bundled up in that one thing?
Precisely. And that's such a critical insight. We often think of a job in, purely economic terms, just income. But if you look deeper, psychologically, socially, it did so much of the heavy lifting in our lives.
Like what, specifically?
Well, obviously, income for survival, that's the baseline. But then it was often the main source of our identity. The first question people ask, what do you do? The job gave you the answer.
Yeah, that's true.
It also created community. It gave you this ready-made tribe, your colleagues, your work friends. And it offered purpose, right? A sense, even if the task felt small, that you were contributing something.
Even if it felt like pushing paper sometimes.
Exactly. And the last one, often overlooked but so important, is structure. It gave our days a rhythm, a scaffold. It stopped us from feeling completely adrift,
That 5-part bundle. Income, identity, community, purpose, structure, all wrapped up in the job. And now the book says that whole thing is being, ripped apart.
Violently unbundled. That's the phrase used, and I think it captures the force of this change.
Which brings us to our first key quote from this chapter. The book states it very directly. The intelligence inversion is not just taking our jobs, it is violently unbundling these 5 functions.
Yeah, and that quote, that's really the launch pad for understanding what society looks like next. The core reality, the thermodynamic truth, if you like, is that AI just removes the need for human labor to get that income function sorted.
Because the cost of cognitive work plummets.
It approaches zero, essentially. The cost of thinking, writing, analyzing, organizing the stuff knowledge workers do. When an AI can do that for the price of electricity, the economic basis for that human job just evaporates.
Okay, that sounds bleak. That's the scary part. But the book doesn't frame it only as a disaster, does it? It talks about liberation.
It does. It's a forced liberation, maybe, but liberation nonetheless.
Yeah.
Because if AI takes care of income, it frees us up from, well, let's be honest, a lot of what constituted office work. The bullshit jobs, as David Graeber called them.
The unnecessary tasks, the busy work.
Right. The book argues we're being forcibly liberated from all that inefficiency. The need for human labor collapses, and that forces us, whether we like it or not, to consciously figure out better, more authentic ways to get those other 4 things: identity, community, purpose, and structure.
So we have to build those ourselves now, outside of a traditional job.
We have to design them. We have to source them intentionally. This is the shift, the book says, from that forced, economically driven labor to what it calls our real work, which is creating and sustaining meaning itself. But you touched on something crucial earlier, the immediate feeling isn't necessarily a purpose, it's probably anxiety.
Yeah, because that system, the job bundle, it didn't just provide those things, it trained us to depend on it, right? The book uses this analogy of the factory school.
Oh yeah, that analogy is key. Think about it. For 150 years or so, society basically put us through this system, imported back in the 19th century. What was its goal? Was it to create curious, creative, resilient people?
Not really, no.
No, it was designed to produce compliant workers, cogs for the industrial machine, and soldiers too. Think about the hitting lessons. Sit still for hours, obey the bells, move in lockstep, except that your value can be boiled down to a grade.
Standardization, obedience.
Exactly.
Hmm.
We were trained to be interchangeable parts. If you could do the task, follow the rules, you were useful. If you couldn't or wouldn't, you were replaced.
And the irony, which Chapter 21 really hammers home, is that those very traits, being standardized, being obedient, focusing on one narrow task, those are precisely the things AI is now incredibly good at.
Yeah.
Better than us.
Perfectly optimized by AI. So the machine, the factory model, becomes obsolete. And the cogs, us, who've been told our whole lives that our worth is our function within that machine, suddenly we're set free. But we have no direction. We don't know how to operate outside the factory floor.
So it's not just an economic crisis, it's like an identity crisis,
Wow.
a crisis of our internal programming.
That's a great way to put it. A catastrophic failure of the internal operating system. We learn to equate our value with what we produced, our economic output. Now, silicon does that better. So the immediate struggle, the book argues, is reprogramming ourselves, finding value not in what we do for a living, but just in how we live.
Wow. Okay, so that's the psychological fallout of the job unbundling, rebuilding identity. But let's shift gears slightly. Let's talk about the underlying logic, the math of work itself, because losing the job also apparently destroys a really core concept from old school economics.
Yeah, it dismantles something foundation.
Opportunity cost. That's the one, right? Explain that simply for us.
Okay, opportunity cost. In traditional economics, it's basically the idea that doing anything costs you the value of the next best thing you could have done instead.
Right. If I spend my afternoon writing this report, I can't spend it meeting that client. The lost client meeting is the opportunity cost.
Precisely. Because we're physical beings, stuck in one place at one time, every choice we make, every yes, is automatically a no to countless other possibilities. That foregone alternative, the opportunity cost, was a massive constraint. It limited everything: growth, creativity, exploration.
Okay, I get that. So how does AI change that?
Well, think about the intelligence inversion in the digital world.
Mhm.
AI doesn't have the same limitations. A generative AI, for example, isn't constrained by a single track of thought or linear time in the same way a human is.
Can you give us a more concrete example? Make it real.
Sure. Imagine, say, a graphic designer working on a logo. They have maybe a day. They might explore, 5, 10 really distinct concepts, pouring their time and energy into those few paths.
Okay.
The cost of the final logo includes the time spent, but also the cost of not exploring the hundreds of other potential ideas they didn't have time for. That's the opportunity cost.
Right, the paths not taken.
Exactly. Now, picture an AI designer. You give it the prompt. Does it explore 5 ideas? 10? No. It explores maybe 5 million variations. Instantly. It can try every color combination, every font pairing, every layout nuance simultaneously.
Ah, I see.
The time cost is virtually zero, and the cost of the foregone option becomes negligible because all options, or near enough, were explored. The AI's ability to explore this vast possibility space just collapses the whole framework of opportunity cost, at least for digital creation.
Yeah.
It's not about choosing the best path anymore. It's about generating every path.
Okay, so if AI makes our time infinitely leverageable, infinitely productive in that digital sense, time stops being the ultimate scarce resource.
Exactly. Time itself is no longer the bottleneck it once was.
Exactly. Time itself is no longer the bottleneck it once was.
So what is? What's left that's truly
Yeah.
finite? And that leads directly into the second really powerful quote from this chapter. It does. The book argues we've been looking at the wrong thing. By obsessing over optimizing our time, we made a huge mistake. We missed the real scarcity. Here's the quote. This reveals the great miscalculation of the modern era. We have been trained to obsess over the opportunity cost of our time, while ignoring the opportunity cost of our attention, the only resource that remains truly finite.
Wow. Okay. The opportunity cost of our attention, that hits differently. Time can be scaled by AI, but our conscious focus...
It's still just us, right? Limited, biological.
That's the absolute crux of it. Our subjective conscious experience that bandwidth is finite. There are only so many moments in a life. Only so much you can consciously perceive and engage with.
So the economic focus flips.
Completely flips. It shifts away from production. How much can I churn out this hour?
Right.
And lands squarely on experience. What am I choosing to consciously engage with right now in this irreplaceable moment?
So the real cost of, say, mindlessly scrolling an AI-curated feed for an hour isn't the work email you didn't write. The book argues the real cost is the hour of consciousness you didn't cultivate. The unique, subjective slice of life you traded away for, essentially, engineered distraction. Attention becomes the gold standard, the ultimate finite resource in a world drowning in infinite content.
That scarcity, the scarcity of real, focused human attention, the book says it drives this really interesting reversal. The great reversal, it calls it.
Yes, the great reversal. It's counterintuitive, but makes sense when you think about it.
Explain that. How does attention scarcity lead to a reversal?
Well, think about the digital world becoming saturated with AI content. Perfect text, perfect images, perfect music, perfect simulations, all generated endlessly, flawlessly, indistinguishably.
Okay, infinite perfect content.
Right. In that environment, what becomes rare? What becomes valuable? Authenticity,
Yeah.
genuine human experience, things that aren't perfectly optimized or infinitely replicable.
So realness becomes the new scarcity.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, the book predicts this kind of gravitational pull-in where we find value and identity. It argues that status, identity, will shift away from the purely digital and networked, where everything can be faked or copied, and it'll reground itself in things that are tangible, local, embodied.
Kind of post-digital materialism.
That's the term used. But it's crucial to understand this isn't the old materialism, like buying the fanciest factory-made car or the biggest TV.
Right, not just accumulating mass-produced stuff.
No. This new materialism is about reconnecting with actual physical reality, with skilled human creation, with genuine presence, things that require that finite attention and embodiment.
So how do you signal your value, your status in that world? If my perfect AI-generated virtual mansion is worthless because anyone can have one, what matters?
The book introduces this concept of diversity capital, or D capital. Think of it as the measure of your uniqueness, your non-replicability. Evidence that you're connected to something real, something not optimized.
Okay, D capital. So what's a high D capital signal then?
It won't be the expensive mass-produced handbag anymore, because a perfect digital copy might be instant, or the physical one might be made entirely by robots anyway. The real signal of wealth and D capital, the book suggests, becomes something like
Like what?
successfully cultivating a difficult heirloom vegetable garden? Maybe. Or owning a piece of furniture handmade by a local artisan where you can see the imperfections of the wood, the human touch. Or possessing deep knowledge of a traditional craft passed down through generations.
Things an AI can't just replicate perfectly.
Exactly. Things that embody genuine, non-scalable human effort, presence, attention, and that connection to the physical world. These become the anchors of value when the virtual world is infinite.
Okay, this is starting to paint a picture of what comes after the traditional job.
Yeah.
If jobs are unbundled and attention and embodiment are the new currencies, what do people actually do? This brings us to the arts of being human, right?
Yes. This is the book's answer to what's next. It's not about new professions in the old sense, like prompt engineer level 3. It's about cultivating these fundamental human capacities that were always our real work, arguably, but were buried under economic necessity. Now they come to the forefront.
And these arts are things that AI can't easily replicate.
Precisely. They all leverage our finite subjective consciousness, our empathy, our judgment, our presence, things that optimization algorithms just aren't built for.
All right, let's spend some time breaking these down. There are 4 main ones identified in the book. First up, the one directly tackling that new scarcity, the art of attention.
Right, the art of attention. This is basically the skill of cultivating full conscious presence. Think about it. We're swimming in an ocean designed to hijack our focus. Every notification, every feed is engineered to grab and hold our attention.
So the superpower is resisting that.
It's choosing where your mind rests. It's engaging deeply with focus, filtering out the noise. That ability to direct your own consciousness becomes incredibly valuable.
And what does a practitioner of this look like? What's the role?
The book calls them attention architects. These can be people who literally design spaces, physical or digital, that encourage deep work and minimize distraction. Or maybe more abstractly, they're like curators of cognitive experience. They help individuals or groups structure their information intake, their mental environment, to ensure quality and depth.
So they're not producing output, they're shaping the input space.
Exactly. They help you decide what's actually worth paying attention to in the first place.
Hmm.
They're like gardeners for the mind.
Okay, that's fascinating. Next art, the art of connection. This seems to address the social fragmentation we see.
Absolutely. If the digital world, optimized by algorithms, tends to atomize us, put us in echo chambers, amplify outrage, then the act of consciously weaving and maintaining the human social fabric becomes critical.
Building bridges, basically.
Building and maintaining them. AI can schedule meetings, sure. It can facilitate data transfer. But can it genuinely build trust? Can it share vulnerability? Can it navigate the messy, inefficient, but vital process of human relationship?
Probably not. That requires subjective risk, empathy.
Right. So the roles here, the book calls them relationship weavers. Think community organizers, skilled facilitators, therapists, maybe even true political leaders, people whose core function is engineering belonging. Building the bonds, the shared understanding, that keeps society cohesive.
And they prioritize connection over pure efficiency.
They have to. They understand that the inefficiency of taking time to build real trust is actually the most valuable investment, even if it doesn't show up on a spreadsheet.
Okay, third art. This one seems aimed at former knowledge workers. The art of meaning.
Yeah, this is a big one. AI is going to generate information on an unimaginable scale. Infinite reports, analyses, summaries, creative outputs. So what's the human role when information is free and infinite?
It can't be generating more information.
No. The critical skill flips from production to curation. But it's more than just selecting. Curation becomes a form of creation itself. It's about taking that chaotic flood of data and forging it into coherent narratives, turning raw information into usable knowledge and ultimately into wisdom,
Finding the signal in the noise.
and giving it shape, giving it context. So the practitioners here are the meaning makers. They are the new sense makers. Think philosophers, historians, artists, curators, maybe even secular shamans, as the book puts it.
Why shamans?
Because AI can answer almost any how question. How do I build this? How do I optimize that? But it can't answer why. It can't tell us which questions are fundamentally worth asking. That choice, deciding what matters, what direction to point the ship in, that's a deeply human, subjective act of meaning-making.
Choosing the destination. I like that. Okay, fourth and final art. The art of embodiment. This brings us back to the physical world.
It does. It connects back to that idea of post-digital materialism. As more and more of our lives potentially shift into virtual spaces, the need for reality anchors becomes stronger, not weaker.
People who keep us grounded.
Exactly. People who act as bridges between the digital simulation and the physical reality. Translators between code and flesh, you might say. Their value lies in their deep, tacit knowledge of the physical world, its constraints, its beauty, its demands.
So who are these reality anchors?
Think skilled farmers, craftspeople working with physical materials, athletes pushing the limits of the body, builders who understand structures not just as code, but as physical forces. Anyone deeply engaged with physics, biology, and the tangible world.
What's their function for the rest of us?
They remind us what's real. The taste of food grown in actual soil, the feel of wood grain, the satisfaction of physical effort, the limits and capabilities of our own bodies. They prevent us from floating off entirely into the digital ether, losing touch with the planet that actually sustains us.
So looking at all four, attention, connection, meaning, embodiment, the common thread seems to be, they're all very human, they resist automation.
They're inherently non-scalable in a purely computational way. You can't optimize genuine empathy or subjective meaning-making with an algorithm without fundamentally destroying what makes them valuable. They require that finite, conscious human element.
Which leads us perfectly into the final big idea of the chapter, the ultimate unbundling. Not just the job, but intelligence itself.
Right. The book argues the intelligence inversion forces us to see intelligence not as one monolithic thing, but as two distinct domains.
Okay, what are they?
First, there's computation. This is AI's territory. It's processing data, manipulating symbols according to rules, following logic. It's pure optimization. It's the engine for answering how to do things faster, cheaper, more efficiently, and its power, almost limitless and growing constantly.
Okay, computation AI, how? What's the second domain?
The second domain is consciousness.
Mm.
That's us. That's humanity's domain. It's the semantic experience of being. Subjective awareness, qualia, the feeling of red, the sting of regret, the joy of connection.
The what it's like.
Exactly. Consciousness is the engine for assigning meaning, for making value judgments, for answering the question, why? Why pursue this goal? Why is this beautiful? Why does this matter? And this capacity, unlike computation, is finite. It's messy, biological, non-scalable, but it's incredibly precious.
Computation and consciousness, how versus why. That distinction really clarifies the human role going forward, doesn't it? And it sets up our third and final quote perfectly.
It really does. It encapsulates the synergy, the necessary partnership between these two forms of intelligence.
Here it is. The AI is the ship that can sail an infinite ocean of possibility. We are the compass that gives the journey a destination.
I love that quote. It's so evocative. An infinitely powerful ship is just adrift without a direction, right? And a compass pointing somewhere is useless if you have no way to travel there.
It implies a partnership, not a replacement.
A necessary symbiosis. And this, the book argues, is humanity's ultimate promotion. It connects right back to the fundamental physics mentioned earlier, the second law of thermodynamics.
Refresh our memory on that connection.
The universe naturally tends towards disorder, towards entropy. Chaos increases. Intelligence in any form is the force that pushes back, that creates pockets of order, structure, meaning it's anti-entropic.
And humans were the main engine for that on Earth.
For most of history, yes. We built civilizations, created art, developed knowledge islands of order in the cosmic chaos, but we were always limited by our own cognitive and physical constraints.
But now with AI, those limits are shattered.
And computational limits are shattered. So humanity's new collective purpose, the book suggests, is to become the most powerful engine of anti-entropy the planet's ever seen. We don't retire, we get promoted. We become the ones who steer that incredibly powerful creative impulse unleashed by AI.
A conscience for the perfect demon, is that the phrase?
That's one way the book puts it. We provide the subjective, ethical, aesthetic direction. Our job, our real work now, is choosing what is beautiful, what is true, what is good, and then directing AI's infinite how power to manifest more of that in the world.
So the ultimate responsibility is defining value.
Wow. And the book closes this chapter, this whole line of thought, with a really powerful historical analogy, right? The monks of St. Gall.
Yes, it's a brilliant closing metaphor. Think about those monks centuries ago. Their essential job was preserving knowledge by painstakingly copying manuscripts by hand. That was their economic and cultural function.
Hugely important work.
Absolutely vital. Then along comes the printing press. Suddenly, their core function, the manual labor of text replication, is made obsolete overnight.
Just like AI might obsolete cognitive labor today.
Exactly. The immediate fear must have been immense.
Yeah.
Ruin, loss of purpose, the end of their world.
But that's not what happened.
No. According to the story, the monks of St. Gall didn't see the press merely as destruction. They saw it as liberation. They embraced the new tech. They used it to handle the bulk replication of basic texts far faster than they ever could.
So what did they do then? They transformed their role. They stopped being mere copiers and became scholars, editors, librarians, theologians. They used their freed-up time and mental energy to engage in higher-level knowledge work, curating collections, debating complex ideas, building one of Europe's great libraries. They moved from manufacturing output to shaping the structure of knowledge itself.
They moved up the value chain, essentially.
They did. And that, the book concludes, is the perfect model for us now. We need to view AI not just as a job killer, but as a tool that liberates us for a higher purpose. The question isn't just, how do we survive this? Because, theoretically, AI solves the basic survival problem.
Right.
The real profound question is, okay, now that you don't have to toil just to survive, what will you choose to be? What meaning will you consciously construct? That's the work that remains.
That's a powerful place to pause and reflect.
It really is. It sets the stage for everything that follows.
Okay, let's try and wrap up the core of this chapter. Can you give us that main argument in a single sentence?
Here, let me try. The intelligence inversion violently ends the economic necessity of human labor, forcing us, as humanity, to consciously re-engineer purpose, identity, community, and structure by cultivating these essential, subjective human arts.
Nicely put. That really captures the shift from necessity to conscious creation. All right, for everyone listening, let's bullet point those key takeaways from Chapter 21. These are the foundational ideas for navigating what comes next. First, the traditional job, as we knew it, it's functionally gone. It's been unbundled into 5 distinct needs: income, identity, community, purpose, and structure. And we now have the task of consciously rebuilding those last 4 for ourselves.
Critically important.
Second, the real scarcity isn't time anymore, it's attention. This is because AI basically blows up the whole concept of opportunity cost when it comes to digital creation. Where you place your conscious focus is the key resource.
Absolutely central.
Third, the future value, the economic juice, if you like, lies in those inherently human capacities that resist automation. The book groups them into the arts of attention, connection, meaning, and embodiment. Developing these is developing your D capital, your unique value.
Yeah, those are the new frontiers of human work.
And finally, fourth, humanity's ultimate role in this new era is providing the consciousness, the why, the meaning, the direction to guide AI's essentially infinite power of computation, the how. We become the steersman, the compass, the engine of anti-entropy.
Yeah, compass for the infinite ship.
Exactly. So this chapter, after economics, it gave us the philosophical anchor, the personal mission, the why behind this whole transition. We're not heading for retirement. We're heading for a promotion to, well, steering creation itself.
A daunting but potentially incredible responsibility.
For sure. So now that we have the why, we need to look at the how of building this new world. We move from the philosophy to the practical first steps. Next time, we're stepping onto the bridge, looking ahead to the 1000th day, as the book calls it.
The beginning of the construction phase.
Right. The clock is definitely ticking. The old system is fading. And the only thing left is the conscious work of building what comes next. Where do we plant the first seeds? How do these new systems actually start to take root? We'll get into all of that next time.
Looking forward to it.
Me too. Join us then for the final stage of our guide.